I didn't disappear. I stewarded. Welcome to Come Sis With Me, the podcast. Real talk, biblical wisdom, and practical tools. I'm your host, Mia Randall, your wellness architect. Each episode is designed to help you align, release, and create a life you actually want to live. And today we're talking about stewardship because I didn't disappear. I stewarded. Come for the stories and strategies. Stay for the sisterhood. Let's get into it. Is this thing on? Are we ready? Yeah. Hi. Hey, sis. If you're here, welcome home. I just want to say, if you've been wondering where I've been, thank you for waiting without demanding an explanation. I want to start by saying this plainly. I didn't disappear because I lost faith. I didn't disappear because I was tired of serving. I didn't disappear because God just went quiet. I stepped away because I realized some things had to be stewarded before it could be shared, if you know what I mean. And today, this episode marks my return, not as a comeback, but as a realignment, so to speak, which is kind of where we are landing at this year. Is a really big part of my thought process is alignment. And so this is not an episode of updates. I'm not going to give you like the whole rundown of what my life has been like over the last year and a half. Although obviously you see I've cut my hair, grew the color out. Yeah, some things have definitely changed. We don't have time for all that. This is not a recap. And it's not me filling in the gaps. This is a recalibration for me and for anyone who's called to serve, lead, build, love, and show up faithfully without losing themselves in the process. And if that's you, you're in the right place. So pull up a seat. There are 3 words that I would use to anchor us in today. It's going to be inheritance, heritage, and legacy. And most people talk about the legacy part, but very few people talk about about inheritance. Almost no one talks about heritage. And that's where the actual work happens. This is my word for the year. But it's my word for the year because this is the reason why I had to take a little second to breathe over the last year and a half. Inheritance is what you receive before you ever even get a say, right? These are the things that come with your family systems, your church culture, your leadership models, expectations that people and places and society have placed on you. These are the rules that you've learned without realizing that you were actually learning them. It's things like strong women don't rest, right? Or good leaders don't say no. Or if God called you, you shouldn't struggle. For me, it sounded like being tired is just a part of being faithful or the job. And I was tired of being tired. But some of us have inherited spiritual language that made dysfunction sound holy or functional. And here's the truth, and we don't say it loud enough. You are not responsible for what you inherited, but you are responsible for what you carry forward. And that's where heritage comes in. Heritage is inheritance examined. It's what happens when you stop running on autopilot and you ask, what am I actually stewarding? And what am I just surviving? I had to pause because I realized I was carrying things that were never assigned to me, or they were, and I wasn't stewarding it in a way that promoted wellness and thriving in my life. Something that I realized I'm called to. That is my calling, is to create systems of wellness, not just in my life, but to share them with the people who I do community with, right? And it's not that wasn't sinful or rebellious, right? And part of the reason why we kind of live in these gaps of accepting things that we actually don't need to steward in our lives is because they don't look sinful. They don't look rebellious, right? They're not the typical or atypical way that we would use to describe them. But that's why it was easier for those things to disguise themselves, because it wasn't apparent that they didn't belong. But it was a responsibility that didn't belong to my calling or my season. Some of it was emotional labor. Some of it was, honestly, just spiritually over functioning. But some of it, and a lot of it, was pressure from leading in multiple facets disguised as obedience. So I'm a wife, right? So I'm leading my home in a way, like managing the aspects of the home life. I'm doing that overseas. So what does that look like, being an overseas wife or wag, right, of a professional basketball player, and how I lead in that area? What's it look like to lead as a daughter, as a sister, as a friend, right, in ministry, in my business? All of those different places that are calling on me, there was a pressure to lead in all of those different places. And the disguise of obedience, right, was causing me to just stumble and make unwise decisions for my body, for my mind, for my purpose, right? And I had to get honest with myself and with God. I can't invite women into wellness if I'm unwilling to model stewardship of my own soul first. And that pause wasn't a disobedience, right? It was alignment. It actually is what led to the Lord calling me the wellness architect, an umbrella that gives the places of Mia a home. And so what you're seeing on me now isn't just happiness because Come Scissors of Me is back. This is a true joy that I get to live out being Mia. Because this was important for years. I would forego assignments because they didn't fit into this box that I had myself in. But when God revealed the wellness architect to me, it wasn't just, aha, I get it now. It was freedom. You're seeing freedom. Freedom to be Mia and show up not just as a counselor or as an overseas basketball wife, but Mia as a daughter, Mia as God's inheritance, all simultaneously and as authentic and genuine as I can. I want to talk about, so let's talk about deliverance, because we made it either too dramatic or too shallow. Because I know y'all are like, oh, that's great, Mia. How'd you do that, right? Deliverance is not just casting something out. Deliverance is removing authority from what was never meant to rule you. I want you to think about, I wrote something down. I want you to think about being trolled on Instagram and immediately blocking them and revoking the access that you originally gave them. This is what a high level of deliverance is. It's recognizing you are being trolled and then revoking access from the troll. And you can do that either by casting down thoughts or lies believed that keep you in that headspace, forgiving yourself, others, or even God for some disappointments in your life. And it can also include art, being honest about the hurt that you feel over a thing and allowing Jesus into that plan to heal it. Either way, it starts with a revealing of the thing. Right. So when I sat down, I was like, Lord, I got to be honest with some things. Like, I need to reveal to you what I'm not willing to walk in anymore. And I think this is a big place that we get caught up, is that we don't know that we have the ability to talk to God in a way that is not this like we lack a power or authority. We have been granted authority in Christ, right? In the same vein, right? We often use Sunday service as a great time for an altar wail, right? But some of us don't need a moment at the altar. We just need discernment. And that can happen anywhere. We need to recognize that we have power and authority to come to the Lord at any place. You don't just have to wait for Sundays. And life happens everywhere, right? And not everything you feel responsible for came from God, right? Truth, facts. Not everything you've been faithful to is actually fruitful, right? That's why discernment, or the ability to judge well, is important. We're serving and leading in places like friend and sister and mother and entrepreneur and basketball wife daily without deliverance, without freedom. And it's turning us into martyrs. It was turning me into a martyr. And martyrdom is not the same thing as obedience. A couple months ago, I had to turn the internet off because, well, you know why, right? Like, people claiming that certain people were martyrs because they said they were being obedient to God by spewing hate. And I just want us to have more discernment in these times, because we want to do all the things in the name of being obedient, except be free, except martyrdom is not the same as obedience. You want to do all the things in the name of being obedient, but actually be free, right? Be you. Be what we actually need. And let me say this clearly, especially for the women who need permission they don't actually need. Wellness is not indulgent. It's not a spa day or scheduling a Sabbath day of rest on your calendar and not actually following through with it. It is obedient, right? And so wellness does not include this martyrdom without a level of freedom. It's you properly discerning between assignments and showing up in every place as you, free and with eyes wide open and aligned. And alignment between calling, capacity, and season is not optional, especially not in this time frame. And I noticed that it wasn't optional for me. If I want to endure, if I want to leave something beyond me. And what I mean by this is any dissonance between those three things, your calling, your capacity, and your season, is going to cause fatigue. It's going to cause this unnecessary burden or weight, and it's going to cause burnout. And burnout is not a badge. It's a boundary violation. It's your body saying, yo, you didn't judge that last thing well. And now my nervous system is paying the price. Last year, I remember sitting on the couch, dizzy, nauseous, not being able to follow through on assignments, not being able to show up for things that I said yes to, and feeling guilty because I was burnt out, because my nervous system was like, no, we can't do this. One thing I had to do was stop long enough to ask, like, what am I doing that looks faithful, but it's actually misaligned for what's needed from me in this season, what my body needs. This question changed everything. Come Sis With Me, the podcast was just one piece of the assignment originally given to me. The other was the ministry portion, the place where women can gather to be well. Come Sis With Me, the ministry, because this matters, is for women that are called, but also carrying just a little bit too much. Right? They're women. It's for women who love God deeply, but feel fragmented internally. Right? It's for women who serve well publicly, but are exhausted privately. It's women who are not necessarily broken, but are definitely overextended. And even if they are broken, right, they're still showing up as these valuable vessels. But they are threatening to break the bonds, because those things that are holding the pieces together is not the thing that the Lord intended to have held holding those pieces together. Come Sis With Me isn't a space to fix yourself. This is a space to be formed, right? We pray in the ministry portion of Come Sis With Me. We process there, we rest there, we discern there, and we build alignment, not adrenaline, right? Because that's what I was doing. I was running off of adrenaline. I was like, oh, assignment completed, great. I got some motivation to start the next thing. But I realized that is going to run out, and it did, right? The biggest issue I had last year was continuing to show up when I didn't feel like it. Building when the motivation wore off. And what I recognized was that I needed a better system, because being a pioneer, being a blueprint woman does not always feel good. You won't always feel like doing the work or paying the cost. But just like your job, you still show up because those bills got to get paid some way, somehow, right? I find it funny that we can show up for a job we halfway like when we don't feel like it, but struggle to do that for ourselves when everything else is calling on us. And Come Sis With Me exists to help women steward their souls so that they can serve without losing themselves. Why? Why is that important? Because the part that we always talk about and we want to immediately skip to is legacy, the future. And legacy is not what you announce. It's not what you claim it to be. It's what others actually live because you did the work. It's what happens when you build off of alignment and not just adrenaline. It's what you get from me when I decide to not let packing my life up in bags to fly myself across the world's waters 60 hours later unravel me, shake me, or make me forget who I am. Inheritance explains where you come from, what was passed down to me. My mama was a hustler, so I'm going to be a hustler. My daddy is a jack of all trades, so I'm out here trading all the jacks. My grandparents prioritized education, so their granddaughter is degreed up. But also, they all learned and were taught they are valued by what they do. So of course I inherited that too. Even though that spirit of performance has robbed me time and time again of many opportunities to show up authentically as myself. Heritage determines how you live that out now. The things that I choose to allow into my life and to be a part of who I am now are facets of what was passed down to me. I know performance is not necessary for Mia to build well anymore. I know that education is important to me, but I don't live my life based on letters behind my name anymore. I know that I have many talents. It's a natural design feature of mine, yet not all of them need to be stewarded in the moment. Not all of them need to show up right now in this moment with every interaction, right? And I know that hustling will keep the lights on, but that at the end of the day, I trust God to carry the torch for me. So I can't have my hands on everything in the name of provision, providing for myself, putting a roof over my head, putting food on the table, having a 2-income household. Those are great things, but I trust God to carry the torch. Legacy is what remains because you choose alignment over survival. So while I'll honor those before me by stewarding well what was inherited from them, meaning taking what is supposed to be part of me and leaving what's not. So I'm aligning not first with who came before me, but with God's design of Mia, and not my family's design of Mia, not the world's design of Mia, or anything else that tried to kind of hitch a ride along the way. This is a process. But I am committed to building legacy the slow, faithful way, because I'm not willing to have anything that doesn't fully represent God's carefully knit and formed Mia behind. Second Kings 20. There's a verse that talks about King Hezekiah being okay with peace in his lifetime and not really caring about the future generations, even though he was told and warned, like, hey, your future generations are going to be carried off to live in bondage, which is what eventually happened if you read Daniel, right, in the 3. But the sad part is that God gave him an opportunity to steward well what was in front of him now, so that his legacy would not have to pay the cost of his decisions in the now. And I think about that when I think about my legacy, is that I'm okay with the process. I'm okay with paying the cost now, because I don't want all the things that I've been going through to be in vain. And I absolutely don't want the people and the things and the possessions after me to have to deal with the same things over and over. One of the things that I heard a long time ago when I was young was the way that you repeat history is by not knowing it. And now I take that a step further and think the way that we repeat history is by either not knowing it, but also not stewarding the now well, right? If you saw somebody do something wrong and it caused years of heartache and pain, why don't we do it again? There's hope for us. There's hope for us. So, wow. This is my first episode back, but I want to invite you to stay. If you've been feeling the nudge to slow down, not quit, right? Because I almost quit. I almost didn't come back at all, right? But I didn't. 2 Corinthians 4, right? We will not give up. We will not give up. But if you've been feeling the nudge to slow down, not quit, to rest, not retreat, don't run away, or to realign without disappearing, because that's the thing, right? Sis, you belong here. And we're just getting started again. But this time, I'm doing it, we're doing it aligned. So I'll see you in the next episode. If you've stepped back in a season to steward something sacred, I hope this reminded you that stepping back isn't disappearing. It's building aligned. I didn't disappear, I stewarded. And if today's conversation resonated with you, share it with a sister, follow the podcast, and leave a review if this space has been meaningful. Or if you want to share your story and help shape our sisterhood, go to the wellness-architect.com/podcast and click on share your testimony. We would be honored to hold space for your voice. Thank you for coming for the stories and strategies and staying for the sisterhood. Until next time, sis, be well.